Well, air travel can be frustrating for anyone, let alone wheelchair users who often find it frustrating and humiliating. So what needs to change? Well, we're joined by two disability advocates, British TV presenter Sophie Morgan, and who founded Rights on Flights campaign, and Shane Hryhorec, an Aussie travel blogger who has been capturing his experiences around the world. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sophie, you started Rights on Flights. What was, I guess, the reason for that?
Yeah, so firstly, thank you for having me in. I started it last year. So I had my wheelchair broken 3 times last year. But of course, I'm not alone. I mean, my story is one that many wheelchair users face. I think in the States at the moment, the stats are every day about 29 wheelchairs are broken. So it's a crisis. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, enough is enough. What can I do? I'm a TV presenter in the UK, so I thought I could use my profile to try and raise awareness of the problems. But more than anything, I think the most important thing at the moment now is focus on solutions. So certainly in the UK and in the US, there's a lot of advocates talking about the challenges that we face. And I think for us, it's really now a case of, right, enough is enough. What can we do? So my campaign has been calling for a number of things. We are, in the first instance, looking at the quick changes we can make, so changes in regulations so that we can look at more punitive measures when things do go wrong for wheelchair users, like if we're left on board an airplane for too long, our wheelchairs are damaged, or worse, if they're lost or broken entirely. Stronger measures there so that the airlines are kind of put off from that. But then we also want to look at things like a redesign of an aircraft, so potentially one day wheelchair users can fly in their chairs, which is a solution for some, not all. But this isn't just about wheelchair users. My campaign also looks at the experience for all disabled people and how we can make things just better. So yeah, it's been an interesting year. We've had some traction, but there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
so it's great to be here now, because I think one of the things we do need to look at is the way we can make sure that the experience is there's more consistency across, not just in our individual countries, but across the world.
And speaking of which, does your experiences marry with Sophie's, Shane?
Yeah, I look, flying for the last 15 years, every experience you have is very different. The other day I just spent 1 hour on the phone just to book a flight to add my service animal on. So people with disabilities have to go through this every single time that they want to make a booking, which is just not right.
And Shane, you talk about your experiences online, and you've gained a lot of traction as well on social media. How much has that helped raise awareness, do you think? Yeah,
I think it's helped a lot. I set up a travel blog called Wheel Around the World, and some of the videos have had up to 10 million views.
Wow.
And it highlights the challenges of people with disabilities travelling with disability, from flying to accommodation to footpaths and even cruise ships. So it's pretty full on.
Shane, you released a campaign yourself. What's some of the reactions that you've had?
Yeah, the campaign for fixing flying, it's a petition that's going to go to the Prime Minister of Australia. It's only went live yesterday, and it's had hundreds of people that have written into the petition and shared their experiences. And some of the stories are heart-wrenching, just to say the least.
I think people don't quite understand that what we're dealing with here is not just about a bunch of disgruntled sort of holidaymakers. I think, you know, people with disabilities want to work, so that means that we have to fly for that. But there's been some fatalities in the UK, in the US, as a result of failings from the airlines when it comes to handling and assistance. This is, I use the language deliberately, it is a crisis, and so we do need to have support from the government, which is what Shane's calling for.
Our viewers would know, but you are a very big deal in the UK, Sophie. You've got a great platform. So on that basis, have airlines been receptive to your campaign, your words?
Unfortunately, I would say, in short, no. I think there are some airlines that are really receptive, and we'll find that soon. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. Some airlines are great. Sometimes we can trust that they will do the work without being forced. But others do need the government to step in and sort of say, right, you need to do the right thing. So we kind of have to depend on that legislation to get more robust and more dependable. So I think, every time that a group of advocates comes together like this and gets a platform to be able to speak about it, it helps. But what we need is decision makers recognising that this is a problem that will only go away if they work with us to make sure that the solutions are appropriate, are effective, and really we need it expedited. We need it now, because every single day what we're seeing in the UK certainly is more and more disabled people turning away from flying, as opposed to the airlines actually fixing the problem. And that's not what we want.
No.
Shane, you've been doing some travel both internationally and domestic recently. What advice would you give people that are wanting to travel but may feel a bit of anxiety about doing so?
Just don't do it. No, I'm just joking. Definitely travel, but plan. And one thing I don't do a lot of is planning. But people with disabilities shouldn't have to plan. We should just be able to get on a plane and go travel.
And that's the great joy of travel, right?
Exactly.
The impromptu nature of it.
I've flown all the way from the other side of the world, and it's such a joy. And sometimes we have to say that the reward is worth the risk. But like Shane says, plan for the worst, hope for the best.
What's the reaction you get from if you come across an issue? Shane, I'll ask you this first up. With airline crew, is there a lack of understanding? Are they empathetic, or are you constantly just fighting a battle?
Well, over the years, I've learned just to not get angry. That's probably the emotion you need to park. But every interaction is very different. And sometimes by explaining your situation, the airline crew just goes, look, we didn't really understand. But then some of them just fight back.
That's something that we're all calling for, actually, as well, is this... So we get that continuity of service, is mandated disabled-led training. It is so important because it's a mixed bag. You can get someone who's really empathetic, really understands, maybe has even lived experience or has been working in the industry for so long, has come across people like Shane and I, and knows what to do. But then you get somebody who has no idea about the challenges that we face, can say some really clumsy and harmful things, and it sort of adds insult to injury and makes the experience even more isolating and hard.
There's not mandated training with airline crews?
No, there is. It's complicated and it differs. And again, it's one of the things that we're calling for is this continuity across all areas. So you might see some training in some spaces. I mean, the other problem we have is that a lot of the services are outsourced. So you get third parties coming in. So perhaps ground handlers aren't trained to the standards that the airlines would want them to. And unfortunately, we kind of get lost in the middle of the problem, is that the airlines might blame the ground handlers, who might blame the airport staff, who might blame and the buck gets passed when something goes wrong. And then we're sort of sitting there going, we don't really care who did it, we just want it to be fixed. So yeah, mandated training is something that the US is calling for, and for that to be disabled-led as well is so important. And in the UK, we're supporting that call, and I know that will be something that we'll be talking about here.
Okay, Sophie, Shane, thank you so much, and good luck in the talks in Australia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.